Welcome to A Taste of AZ podcast. My name is Luke Irvin, and today we've got an epic episode lined up for you. But before we jump into that, just want to let you guys know real quick, we've got some brand new merchandise up on our website, including these Thanks for Supporting Local hats and 2 new shirts as well. If you like today's episode, please also leave us a review on your favorite podcast app, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow our email newsletter. With nothing else to say, let's jump into today's episode.
Thank you, Paul, for having us in here, man. This is, Luke and I came in, shot some photos. Luke shot photos. I was there to kind of hold the light and stuff, right?
Important work.
For our Flagstaff article in A Taste of AZ, and Christina had mentioned you guys. So we came in, and Chef had made some really good dishes for us, and really kind of blew us away with really what he does.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm kind of bummed he's not here today, but I'm also happy that it's just you and I one-on-one.
You know, I can't deny I'm a Red Rock show. So
is that what
he was up there? Yeah, up in Colorado for a show.
Who did he go see? Do you know?
I don't recall.
No. At least you know he went to Red Rock. That's an engaged a business owner right there.
we were there for the first time last month and went up and saw the National, which is one of our favorite bands.
Yeah.
It was an incredible show. And
was it everything that you ever thought? Because I feel like anybody who likes music even a little bit, that's one of their top 3, if not top, like
incredible.
to go to. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. What was it? What did you love about it?
Everything. I mean, the band, obviously.
Sure.
I'll go see those guys anywhere.
Okay.
And, you know, just as they started playing, this giant blood moon rose up over Denver. It was a full moon. It was bright orange. Like, it was just incredible the whole evening. So
that's awesome,
we were with
man.
some really good friends. And, 2-day trip. We flew up, saw the show, turned around, came home.
Yeah.
But totally worth it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's always the story that you hear too, right? It's not like Disney where it's like, dude, don't go there. It was
I got kids. I have to go there.
Well, so my daughters are 9 and 11 now. We haven't taken them to Disney, but they're not huge into Disney, right? So I don't know if we're going to wait. I don't know if it's, child abuse to just ride it out and never take them and count on the grandkids.
Yeah.
Like, you know what, Callie? I can't wait to take your kids to Disneyland. Oh, man. But anyways, we're getting off track here. That's on me. So, Paul, thanks for having us in. So we're at Brix. We're just north of downtown here in Flagstaff. And where I was going with that story is we shot photos here. And at the time, it was not what it is now. We couldn't have been sitting here.
Correct.
When we shot a few months ago.
Right.
Why is that?
Well, we recently expanded. We took over. We're sitting in what is now the Carriage House building. Used to be Carriage House Antique Shop.
Okay.
It's a project that has been underway for a little over 2 years.
Okay.
At least the idea of it.
Yeah.
COVID sort of slowed things down to a snail's pace.
Sure. Yeah.
Stopped everybody, but we were able to pick it back up and get things open right before Labor Day this year. So.
Nice. It's beautiful, man. Because when you came in before, it's a very intimate, very cozy type of place, right? Like, I love the vibe that you get when you walked into this place. And then you had the patio, which even still has that cozy because you feel enclosed, but you're outside, right? I mean, it's a really cool vibe. But this expansion, like, this is next level, man.
Yeah, it's a definite shift from, the vibe that we've always had. We still wanted it to be warm and intimate and kind of have that European feel.
It does, for sure.
Which we love. But it's a larger restaurant now.
Yeah. When we came up, I think maybe when we were leaving, it was starting to get dark out. And just with the dark sky, the Flagstaff not having the street lights, and it's a cool vibe, man, because there's not street lights out there that are drowning out the light and the energy is coming from in here.
Yeah, when you stand out front now and you look at it at night, the building just glows.
Yeah,
and it has this energy and this life to it. It's pretty incredible.
Dude,
and the history in the building. I mean, the building itself is just an amazing old building. It was built in early 1900s.
Okay.
Carriage house for the guy that lived next door in what is now the Bespoke Inn. That was their house. They built this he built it for his wife, for their horses and the carriage.
Yeah.
And then several years later, built what is the old side of Brix where the bar is. He built that as a garage for one of the first automobiles that was brought to town.
Oh, wow.
And it was parked in that space. So
Dude,
just a lot of cool history.
Yeah.
Very old brick, obviously, really cool exposed beams, just a great a great building.
Yeah.
So
isn't it crazy how we've taken like what was that? Was that like on an old, this or that? Like now it's an old barn.
Yeah.
Now it's, what they do, they stored their tractors in there,
Yeah,
right?
for
now
sure.
that's that is a craft food and beverage dream, right?
Absolutely.
If you can get something like that. Yeah.
At one point, it was a party barn for that. Next door was a fraternity.
Okay.
And they held parties in here. Shortly after that, I believe it was condemned.
Really? For good reason.
For good reason. Hazmat. And then somebody bought it and saved it from being knocked down, and kind of brought it into what it's currently being used as. So
And we're going to get into the food here in a second because, man, the food here is incredible. Chef, I can't. His name is escaping me right now.
Logan Weber.
Logan, yeah, Logan. I remember his face. I remember we were talking. He loves beer. He's a beer guy. So with some of the stuff that he created, it just really blew my mind. But we'll get into that in a second. So to you, you said you were born in Pittsburgh when we were talking before. That was a very small part of your life was in Pittsburgh, but
first couple years.
Yeah, but so and what if you don't mind me asking, what year were you born?
68.
68. Okay. Yeah. So around the same, I was 78. So I was born about an hour from there. So, we were connecting on that. But anyways, you didn't grow up in Pittsburgh.
I did not. I grew up in Southern California.
Okay.
Up in the hills above Malibu.
So from Pittsburgh, Steel City to Malibu, that was a good move.
Yeah.
That was a good move. Yeah.
It was a great place to grow up.
Yeah. What was it like growing up? Like, what were you, what was young Paul into?
Dirt bikes.
Okay.
I wasn't a surfer. We were in this little kind of rural community in the middle of the hills, and it was horses and hippies and artists, and my mom was both of those.
Okay.
And rode dirt bikes in the hills. She was a tremendous cook, so that's probably where it came from.
Okay.
I used to hang out with her when she would cook dinners, and always loved eating, and
did she have any specialties, like things that she really like? My mom makes like Swiss steak. Swiss steak was a huge thing. That was in halushki. Have you ever had a halushki?
I have not.
Oh man, it's like egg noodles with cabbage and sausage and a little dollop of sour cream. It's like a
that sounds great.
Yeah, it's really good. So those are the things I remember from my mom, right? Not necessarily grilled cheese, tomato soup. She had her own homemade, spaghetti sauce, but it was the pickle steak and Swiss steak and all that kind of stuff. So with your mom, what was it?
I mean, everything she made was outstanding.
Okay.
And it was, for her, it was about the production, the performance of it all. I mean, to get ready for a meal, if it was a holiday meal or something like that, she would start a week and a half ahead of time.
Nice.
And by the time you got there, everything was so elaborately decorated, and the table was perfect, and the food was perfect. And she never sat down and ate, of course. She was doing, the work the whole time. But she was really into it, and she was a tremendous cook.
Was she career-wise? Did she have a food career, or was it just something she loved to do?
No, she was a mom. She raised us, and she was home, pretty much all the time. So,
and it's that slow cooking, right? My mom came out this past summer to watch my daughters for a couple weeks during the summer while we worked, and she loves it. So she's like, "Hey, I'm going to make you guys some meals. What do you want?" And then we realized it takes her like 5 hours. Like I can make stir-fried shrimp in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, takes her like 4 hours. And I'm like, wow, and then we eat. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. All right.
It's 10 o'clock at night, but
Well, she's usually a noon starter and then by 5, but
that wasn't my mom.
Really? You were eating late dinners?
We were eating late dinners all the time. Yeah.
So
no wonder I ended up here working at night and, doing the thing.
Well, so did you always have a goal to get into this type of industry, or did you have a different path? Pro dirt biker?
Yeah. No. I wanted to be a pro race car driver. That was my original aspiration as a child, but I'm too big. I can't shoehorn myself into one of those things. I started working in a restaurant when I was 19. Okay. Going to college and needed a part-time job. Red Robin, actually, in Calabasas, California. Nice. Started as a host and started serving, and it just stuck. Yeah. I was on the 13-year plan for my undergrad degree, and attended bar most of that, waited tables and everywhere from Tucson to LA to Phoenix to Denver. And when I finally finished college, we moved to Colorado, swore off the restaurant business forever, which naturally faded a us to come back because, we said, never again.
Yeah.
I sat in the cube for a couple of years and realized how much I did not enjoy that.
We're doing what? Like, what was any specific industry or?
It was telecom.
Okay.
It was telecom in the 2000s, actually.
Gotcha.
So right when the internet bubble burst.
Yeah.
So I started working for this company. It was super up and coming, entrepreneurial party, beer, kegs in the quad every Friday.
Right.
Like, great.
Yeah.
Our first Christmas party was this multi-million-dollar affair at the Denver Convention Center.
Yeah.
And the next year was a potluck at the VFW because the internet bubble had crashed. They laid off half the company.
Sure.
And I just, I remember sitting there on Fridays when it was layoff day and just thinking, I was better off as a bartender. Like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So I quit. Had a friend who was working at a restaurant. He gave me a bartending gig. I went to culinary school at Johnson Wales in Denver.
Okay.
And I was back.
Yeah.
And loved it. And,
as a chef?
I was back behind a bar and then doing culinary school at the same time.
Yeah.
Moved here with the intent of opening this restaurant with a friend from school who
This
actually
restaurant.
was this
Brix,
restaurant.
okay.
Yeah. A friend, Laura, who was our executive chef when we opened. And when we opened, it was her and I and one other guy in the kitchen.
Yeah.
My wife was 6 months pregnant, managing the front of the house.
Okay.
And as soon as she had the baby, she kind of stayed home to start raising the kid, and I stepped out front. And I've been here ever since.
So, but you were going to culinary school, bartending. Where was this at? This was in Denver?
Denver, Johnson and Wales, yeah.
Okay. What path were you, like what part of culinary school did you?
All geared towards opening a restaurant, to having my own business.
Okay.
I hadn't had a lot of back house experience, and so I just looked at it as, fun way to spend a year and a half going to school about food and fill in some knowledge gaps that I didn't currently possess. And and I, it was just something I always wanted to do. I kind of had thought about going into culinary school after high school, but chose a different route and went to traditional school for a business degree first.
But so going through the culinary school or getting the training, with not necessarily with the intent that is my goal, right? I don't want to manage, I don't want to hire people. Like, you want to do all of those things, but you also wanted to learn those culinary skills. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I dig that, and I'm sure now you and your family get the benefits of that at home, right? When you get to chop shit up real fast and stuff, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, well, why the idea of Brix? So this was the first place that you opened, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you said
almost 17 years ago.
17 years ago. Wow, man! Congratulations.
So, thanks.
That's
we've seen some shit in that 17 years.
I'm sure. Well, so why? What sparked that particular? What sparked Brix?
This idea? Yeah. The best answer that I can give, and it's one that we've talked about before, is it's a culmination of all of these places that my wife and I worked at over the years. I mean, she was in front of house for 20 years as well.
Yeah.
Serving, doing all of it from Tucson to Phoenix and other places around the country. She moved all over. And we really tried to bring the best of all these places together to do this thing of our own.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that the concept was really dialed in until we saw the building, until we saw the space. We had, there's an interesting story. We'd actually tried to purchase a different restaurant in town that was for sale, and had the meeting with the guy that owned it and put our offer on the table, and he stood up, threw the papers at us, screamed a whole bunch of obscenities, and walked out of the room.
Really?
And we thought, well, that didn't go very well. And I was working for a different restaurant in town, and the owner of that place had told me about this space and said, there used to be this restaurant right over in this neighborhood, and I don't know what's going on with it. You should check it out.
Yeah.
So, with our head kind of hung low from that meeting, we walked up here and we kind of looked at the building and we thought, well, that's pretty cool. And we poked our head over the back fence and looked at the patio and thought that was pretty amazing. And we came inside and there was a woman working at the antique shop. And we just asked her about it. She said, what do you want to do? And we said, a restaurant. And she said, oh, we used to have a restaurant here. It was lovely. And she said, but, there's a business in there and they lease. And we thought, okay, whatever. Here's our number if anything ever changes. She literally called like 2 days later and said, you're not going to believe it, but they just told us they were moving out.
Wow.
So if you want to come look at the building. And we walked inside, we took one look at it, and we were just like, absolutely done.
Wow.
And 11 months later, we opened.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. That timing, right? It's
that
timing
it's everything.
Yeah.
And it was perfect the way it worked out.
So that's kind of how I met my wife. Is I moved from Ohio and I wanted to get a job in the service industry just to kind of meet people, make some quick money. So when I dropped out of college the first time, I worked at Chili's as a fry cook. Right? But I walked out on Black Friday. I couldn't take it. And I walked out. And so years later, when I moved to Arizona, I'm like, I know the menu and I could work there for, kind of in the back of my mind, forgetting I walked out on these guys, right? So I'm on the no hire list. So I get all bummed out, I'm there like, oh yeah, we can't hire you at this time, years later, my friends are like, dude, you realize you were on like a no hire list, right? From walking out on them.
Blackballed.
Yeah, exactly. So, I get on the phone with my sister. I'm like, hey, I was just at Chili's and I had this experience, and she's like, hey, who cares? Go to the next place. And so going to the next place, and it's Buffalo Wild Wings, like all the high end places I wanted to work at. Yeah. So I went in there, and that's what I got hired, and that's where I met my wife. She had worked there as well. That's where I got the job that transitioned me into, really propelled me into what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So all of that, if I would have held my head low, had you held your head low after that guy throwing the papers, right? You could have just given up and. But you didn't.
Yeah.
You walked up the hill.
Serendipity.
Yes. So, all right. So so you kind of had an idea of it until you saw the place. So what influence did the place have on what you were going to be creating with Brix?
Just, again, that small kind of intimate atmosphere.
Okay. More atmosphere than menu, I guess.
Yeah. The menu, I think our original partner, Laura, my wife is also named Laura. So there's a lot of Lauras in my life, but, we had all sort of come together on this idea of creating a restaurant based on sustainable food, locally sourced food.
Yeah.
And this was 2005, 2006. So at that time, it wasn't quite the buzzword that it is these days.
Yeah.
And I remember my accountant, and I was talking to him and telling him what we were going to do and how we were going to build this restaurant, and we were going to source everything as locally as we could and everything. And he's like, you're crazy. He's like, people don't care about that. Yeah. Nobody's going to give a shit. They want cheap food. They want it fast. They want a lot of it.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he was wrong.
Right.
So the menu, that menu, that idea was already in our head. The building just helped kind of bring it all together. Obviously, with the name, we walked into a 100-year-old brick building.
Yeah.
My wife and I both had our first level Psalms, still do, but we had it back then. And so wine was going to be a big part of this. And it just kind of all came together once we landed on the space.
And quite a long wine list, too, I'm seeing. Front and back.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
That's fun.
I don't even know where to start. I'll start at the top. Let's go at the top and go down. No, but so wine was from the beginning an important part of what you guys wanted to have this, including this. Okay,
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of the meal. It's part of the experience.
Yeah.
They go hand in hand.
For sure. Are you a beer guy as well?
I am.
Yeah? Okay.
I'm 54. I don't drink quite as much beer as I used to.
Sure.
But yeah.
I'm with you, man. I'm 43, and it's starting to dwindle down.
Yeah, it gets a little harder when you get older.
It does. Yeah.
Whiskey and wine are my things now.
Yeah. My wife is like, I can see your beer on your chin. Like, yeah, it does. It goes right to my chin, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and I'm sure does the menu you have, does it rotate often? I mean, obviously seasonally, right?
Most of this is new within the last week or two.
Okay. And had these things been on the menu before? Meaning, like, were the rabbit meatballs on last winter?
No,
last
everything
fall?
is pretty much original when it comes on. There's a few things that'll make a repeat appearance, but generally speaking, those guys come up with new dishes all throughout the year, which is awesome.
What is the elk tart? Is that the thing that was in the? So there was one the chef made us. It was like is it
that
the
little pastry, that little black pastry?
Yeah. It's like a ball.
Yeah.
And you crack it open, and there's that's the elk tartare.
Yeah, that actually I think is one of the only carryovers from the summer menu.
Okay, I'm glad. I'm really glad.
Yeah, I am too.
That was incredible. And then there was a risotto dish. I think there was it with beef. What's it called?
Sweetbreads.
Sweetbreads. Yeah. That was one of the pictures in the magazine. Man.
Yeah.
Like all this, like Grimaud Farms duck breast. Like these are
probably
incredible.
my favorite thing on the menu right now.
I'm nailing some good ones, aren't I?
Yeah, you really are. I mean, it's all good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They really put some care into it.
Yeah. Well, how do you guys do it? Like, how do you come up with? Because I'm sure there's not just one person involved, right? I'm sure chef wants your input, and so how do you guys create this, or do you leave it all in his hands?
I mean, a lot of it is in his hands. We
Okay.
give him creative freedom to do pretty much whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And he really doesn't miss all that often. Yeah. There might be a little tweak here and there.
Sure.
Something will come out, and it's maybe something they just didn't think about that Laura and I look at from a front of house point of view, maybe, and we think, oh, let's tweak it a little bit this way. Let's tweak it a little bit that way.
Yeah.
And the final edits are done, so to speak, and then it goes live. And like I said, they really don't miss much.
Yeah.
They do a really nice job.
You don't stay open for 17 years with such good raving reviews by being inconsistent, right?
Yeah. And I mean, and that has largely just been really putting the blinders on and just staying focused on what it is that we do.
Yeah.
A lot has changed in 17 years of being open.
Well, so we talked a little bit before about COVID and its impact on you and you guys had another spot. Well, you have Proper Meats, right down the hill. Really great new spot, because I remember you guys were on the other side of
We're on south of the tracks,
yeah. That's a great spot right on 66. So you've got that, which we'll dig in that a little bit, but I want to save that for a full episode of Proper Meats. But you guys had Criollo as well, which was a very well-known, very high-regarded restaurant here. But COVID kind of interjected in that one a little bit, right?
It did, yeah. I mean, we'll say it was a COVID casualty, but it was really a conscious decision on our part, on Laura's and my part, to take a step back and slow down.
Yeah.
A little bit. Like I said, we'd done 5 restaurants and had 2 children in 10 and a half, a little under 11 years.
Yeah.
Which is a pace that is difficult to keep up with.
Wait, how many restaurants you say?
5.
5. Okay. So what are the 2 that I'm missing? So I know Proper, Brix,
Criollo. We had a restaurant in Tucson called Proper down right in the Rialto block next to the Rialto Theater down there on the corner of Broadway and 5th.
Was it just called Proper?
It was called Proper.
Okay.
It's kind of actually where Proper Meats emerged from.
Okay, gotcha.
And we ran that from 2013 to 2016.
Okay.
And then the current spot that Proper Meats is located in was an old historic diner that we bought with the intention of rehabilitating that.
Yeah.
Did so. It didn't make it. We closed that down, and since we had that space and we needed to move Proper, it needed a new space that was larger.
Yeah.
That was what we ended up doing, was moving Proper into that space.
Grand Canyon Diners?
Grand Canyon Cafe.
Yeah, I remember that spot, and I do remember, and I know, because I've been enjoying food and beverage my whole life, right? But I've been paying attention to the local scene for probably the last 8 to 10 years, so I knew Proper Tucson did sound familiar. So okay.
Yeah.
And I remember the Grand Canyon Cafe. So back up to Criollo. What was that spot? What was the style of the food there?
We called it handcrafted, Latin-inspired local food. So same ethos behind the sourcing.
Yeah.
Latin twist on it.
Yeah.
And just a casual downtown vibe.
Yeah.
And it really caught on with the community.
It did. Yeah.
We still get people that'll stop us and just say, "Oh, man, we missed that place so much.
Yeah.
We loved that place. The margaritas,
yeah,
and the nachos. Those were the 2 things that always stood out for people." But
I could go for some margaritas and nachos.
Absolutely.
Right now. So you guys, so the COVID, the involuntary pause and things, right, allowed you guys to kind of sit back and reflect.
Yeah, take stock. I mean, we're not getting any younger.
Yeah.
And it's a tough pace to keep.
Sure.
We've got 2 teenage girls, and
yeah.
When we were gearing up to get everything started again, and we were really going to move forward in that direction, and we just sort of paused and looked at each other and said, "You really want to do this?"
Yeah.
And when we had an honest heart-to-heart, we just weren't there.
Yeah.
And we wanted to simplify life a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. And how's it been going since?
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a really tough decision. We loved that place. We had employees to think about. We tried to rehome as many as we could into the existing, businesses. It was a tough time for everybody.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, it was the right decision for our family.
Yeah.
So
yeah, two teenage girls. My girls are 9 and 11 now, so I'm a few years behind you.
I'm 12 and 16,
yeah,
so
okay, yeah.
we're in it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's and it sounds like we both can agree on this. Is it's these are those years, and you start to connect, and you want to be with them, and I want to be known as like, oh man, I remember my dad was always there. He was always there, even if it was the last 5 minutes of my cheer thing, he was there, So, and that, in my opinion, that turns into great out here, right? That creates a great business and a great culture for your companies that you and your wife have, right? It all starts there. So good for you guys for doing that. Yeah.
Thanks.
And then you decided to expand this and then just add all that stress back on your plate, right?
Well, of course. Got to have something to do.
Exactly. It gets boring, right? It gets boring.
I don't know what it is about the restaurants, and us people, we crave it, the chaos.
Sure.
When we took this pause in Colorado and both had corporate jobs, we would go to restaurants and we'd sit at the bar and we would just feed on it. It was man, we want the energy. We need it.
Yeah.
So
you got it, man.
It's in the blood.
Yes. I noticed too that you got a great selection of cocktails, and you've got some local beers here too. Three of your 5 beers are Motherwood beers. Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. So cocktails. Tell me about those a little bit. Are you a cocktail guy?
I am. I spent 20 years standing behind a bar.
Yeah.
But I stepped out just as this cocktail revolution started to come on.
Sure.
That was the very tail end of my bartending career.
Okay. Yeah.
But same ethos in the cocktails as in the food. They try and make most of it from scratch. They're constantly mixing up things, using local ingredients or liquors when they can, and really just putting some effort into it. And that rotates as frequently or more than the menu does.
Okay.
So they're always coming up with something different.
Excellent, man.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Talented staff.
Yeah. I mean, from top to bottom, everything that it just looks fantastic, and I want to eat all of it, man.
No.
So.
4 or 5 hours, you can do that.
All right. I can hold off till then. But anything else? Like anything you want to add? I mean, is there any special events that you guys do? Like, do you ever do have a winery come in and do pairings with meals or anything like it? Or is it just kind of you do your thing and?
No, we do. I mean, I feel like we used to do a lot of the big $100 a plate wine dinners and try and sell them out and do the whole thing. That seems to have cooled off a little bit in the last, 5-6 years, something like that.
Yeah.
With this expansion that we just completed, we've got an entire upstairs event space.
Okay.
Overflow seating event space. There's one table up at the top for 8. That's just this cool zinc top, almost boardroom table, big high back chairs.
Yeah.
So I see us doing some very intimate, very small, very focused wine dinners up there for a small group, The wine dinners were cool, but it was always tough for the winemaker to make it all the way around. You had so many tables. He wanted to get to everybody. Everybody wants to talk to him.
Sure.
I feel like if we can do that up there, not interrupt normal service, then people get that experience of actually sitting down and having almost one-on-one conversations with the winemakers and talking about it in depth and talking about it with the food. And we can just do a whole different level of service, of pairing with that. So that's what we're looking forward to in the future.
Nice, man. Nice. Will you ever need to take it through a test run?
Yeah.
Let me know.
I know
I'll
who
sit
to call.
Up at that table. Yeah.
I haven't even sat up there and had dinner yet. I'm dying to.
Man,
it looks
you got
cool.
To. Just
I
by
know.
yourself at the end, like at the head of the table. Oh man. All right. So Brix, how do people find you? Like, what's the website? Is just Brix?
BrixFlagstaff.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Brix Flagstaff is the Instagram handle as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Proper Meats. You got Proper Meats.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about that in another episode. But in a quick, what is Proper Meats in a quick?
It's Arizona raised meatery is what they call it. We call it meatery.
By the meatery.
Yes.
By the
I know the
meatery,
meatery
right?
moved in after the meatery.
Yeah.
And we sell food to folks at the meatery while they're drinking mead. They can eat meat.
The legendary turkey legs.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that just came out of this idea that with this local sourcing in the restaurants, produce we could find. Arizona's a great place year round to get good produce.
Yeah.
The protein was always a challenge.
Okay.
And Arizona is one of these states that raises an incredible amount of livestock. lamb, beef,
Yeah.
pork, all of it, chickens. And very little of it seems to make its way back into the restaurants, into the industry. The vast majority gets exported out, gets sold off at auction, and then we turn around and we import a bunch of stuff back in the state.
Right, yeah.
And so in that time, in 2013, 2014, was sort of this, again, like you started to see these artisanal butcher shops popping up in San Francisco and in LA and in Austin and places. And so I really started, I've been a carnivore since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so I started, just kind of focusing on that and paying a lot of attention. And I thought, well, maybe we can take one step closer to bringing this stuff into our restaurants.
Yeah.
And that seemed like a logical way to do it.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress. It's ever evolving. COVID didn't help that either.
Sure. Yeah.
It really threw a wrench in a lot of works, but, and the business itself has evolved from the time that we opened it. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Nice, man.
It's definitely a passion project.
Proper meats.
Yeah. And Brix, but
sure.
like the food geek in me just really gets into what we're doing down at the butcher shop.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
I love that. So, what's in the future for you guys? Are you guys you have any other ones? That's it.
If my wife is watching this, we're done. We're not doing anything else.
But I can see some ideas in your head.
But the last time I said never and I quit the restaurant business, I came back 2 years later. So I don't know.
With a vengeance.
With a
right?
vengeance, yeah. The plan, there are no plans right now. The plan is to continue to raise my daughters and be with the family and enjoy living in Flagstaff and all that we have here. We're incredibly fortunate and grateful to be here. So
awesome, man. Well, thanks for your time. I know you're a busy guy.
I appreciate you coming up.
Yeah, you got to get going here pretty soon, but thank you. And I can't wait to try everything on the menu, man.
Right on.
Awesome. Thanks.